All right, so here we are. This is part two of Cleanpin, episode 30. Check out Cleanpin, part one, episode 30. Link down below. Vice versa, subscribe to the channel. It will mean very, very much to me. It will mean a lot. Um, the talk here, just kind of raw fallout, so to speak here. You remember AJ Styles? You seen him on SmackDown this past week, and the rumors why AJ Styles was traded to SmackDown is because he had a kind of a they say it's two part there. He had a fallout with apparently Paul Heyman, and in a sense, the second part there, a lot of the locker room kind of just was against him in like his like they thought that his beliefs were out there, and they weren't really down with him. They kind of, I guess from what you're reading on the dirt sheets, that kind of laughed at him in a way, kind of ridiculed for his beliefs. And no, that what you would say to that on a two part thing here. It's kind of, if you have to break it down into two parts, right? Apparently, the disagreement with Paul Heyman was because he thought, uh, and Styles has made it. He thought basically Styles did that Paul Heyman should have gone to bat for Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers, to kind of keep him on board. So if I'm looking at it at that first part, listen, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows. Luke Gallows has been here numerous of times already. Festus. Then he was part of the Straight Edge Societies, and then part of the Good Brothers. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that's three times already that Luke Gallows has been up here, right? Signed with WWE. Now, listen, and I and I know that Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows were a big deal with the Bullet Club in New Japan. Get that, I understand that, but to me, that did not, translate on the main roster here at all. I mean, you would bring out this tag team, Gallows and Anderson, and more often than not, they would not get a reaction. They would almost get, they would almost get a meh, a reaction of indifference, which is not good at all. And I know that we're in the pandemic era of wrestling, I guess, so to speak. But before then, even then, the reactions were very minimum, if hardly any, for these guys. Then they team them up with they finally bring them together with AJ Styles, the OC, and even then, there was a short run with that, before COVID happened, when you had an audience, and even then there was, barely any. Listen, I don't know of anyone that would just rush out there to buy OC shirts. Now, listen, you hear interviews of them, you listen to their podcast. They're a good listen. They are a good listen. But when they were on here, on the main roster, it was not an overwhelming reaction. Now, whose fault is that? Is that Paul Heyman's fault? Well, Paul Heyman did throw them out there countless times. Numerous of times they were out there. So it's not like they weren't on TV. Ask EC3 what being on TV is, and what's, ask him if he's been on TV. That's a dude was never on TV. Good Brothers, they were on TV. And still, could Paul Heyman have done something better, different with them? I don't know, maybe, I guess, but you throw him with AJ Styles, OC Bullet Club, what? Maybe you need a Finn Balor in there, and that would have helped the Good Brothers. I doubt it. But okay, you could go with that. Maybe AJ Styles should have done something differently. I mean, what really could have you done? I pose the question to you. What could have you done? Does that make sense? What could have you done to kind of do better, do more right by the Good Brothers? I don't know. I mean, they were given chances. So I don't know exactly, and I know AJ Styles blames himself because he said he felt responsible for that on the stream. But listen, even with that being said, WWE seemed to have a high opinion of him with the type of money that they gave them to resign back then. And they resigned. So, did WWE's opinion on Anderson and Gallows sour that much? Or was it legitimately where it was, you got to cut corners somehow? You have investors to answer to. And, this is something that needed to be done. I don't know what more can you... I really don't see how Heyman is to blame for this, honestly. To me, it seems like Heyman was going to bat for them because they were always on TV. Now, the second part of this is saying that AJ Styles was kind of looked at differently by, almost like ridiculed by the locker room, and he really just didn't feel like he fit in there. Now that's the part there which, what are you doing? If you're the talent on Raw, what are you doing to AJ Styles? AJ Styles, the way this guy wrestles, the way this guy tells a story in the ring, if you're low on the totem pole there, he could turn you from a scrub into a household name in a match, 2 or 3 matches. And the whole perception of, how people view you on TV and how the internet fans view you on TV could change just by AJ Styles making you look like $1 million. So why would you could, I guess, to use a inside term, you could create money with AJ Styles. Why would you, do that to AJ Styles? Now, see, having a disagreement with Paul Heyman, between Paul Heyman and AJ Styles, well, these are two people that are up on the totem pole. So it's almost like, okay, well, they could work it out. But if some Joe Schmo on the Raw locker room is taunting AJ Styles, making him feel uncomfortable, well, then that talent, should be let go. This guy has, I think, proven a lot of people wrong. Not that anyone really had doubts, but the ones that did have doubts about this guy, the way he is now, how he's been tearing it up even at his age. No reason why you go on and ridicule a guy like that who you could be making some serious good matches, some serious good moments, some serious good money with. So with this new change, apparently, if you notice, I made a video on Paul Heyman being let go. I'll link that video as well. You could check that video out. That was a 10-minute video there in itself. So apparently everything, the saying, oh, and it's still interesting how Paul Heyman never gets blamed for the ratings. But listen, a different story nonetheless. And one of them is saying that Vince, just at the end of that run there with Raw, had a lot of things to say, and that's kind of like he didn't like a lot of things. He didn't know who this younger talent is, which apparently Paul Heyman is the one that wanted to push, bring in, introduce all these new talents. Okay, and but Vince is like, I don't like this, I don't want this. So, just for example, like that tag team that you've seen MVP bring in, two guys from NXT, all of a sudden was supposed to come. They were on TV one week, then the next week they were off TV already. Supposed to be the next it tag team, and they were already taken out. So Vince was probably like, who are these two Joe Schmoes? I don't want them on here. And apparently what is happening with, they say, Shayna Baszler, it's apparently that Vince doesn't like the look or he doesn't get it. And, it just goes back to the same thing. The same thing. You really got to be able to change with the times. Maybe Vince doesn't even know what this MMA thing is all about. Maybe he doesn't get it. Maybe he thinks MMA is pretend. Listen, and, Shayna Baszler, really, they debuted her nicely, making her look like a beast. But then, at WrestleMania, WrestleMania Money in the Bank match, she looks like a schlep. Then is beaten quickly on Raw. So build her up. That's how you kind of see where it was coming. Build her up with steam, and then it's deflated. And it's deflated. Then, so all that work that you were doing, building her up, with 2 straight losses, I think that almost killed Shayna Baszler and her credibility and her going after the championship. So apparently Vince is down on Shayna Baszler as well. He doesn't get it, doesn't understand. That's why, a lot of guys they want Triple H up here. Triple H, like a guy that was like, I remember watching Raw back in those days. Triple H show, beginning, middle, and end of Raw, there was Triple H. Everyone hated Triple H, but now Triple H has redeemed himself as the head of NXT, and that's probably why a lot of people don't even want to come up to Raw. They just want to stand in NXT. So imagine that. Imagine that. Do ask you to subscribe to my channels over here. The GRES show, GRES, and From the Bleachers sports show, all fine and dandy channels that you could watch, you could support. One last thing before you go, Rey Mysterio, Seth Rollins, interested to see how this is going to play out. Again, just like the, a lot of the storylines, they're taking, like I said in the prior video, they're taking the long scenic route as opposed to a shortcut. Very interesting to see if Dominic turns on Rey Mysterio here at some point and joins Seth Rollins. Very interesting to see. That's all we have for Cleanpin. This was part 2. Hope all is well. Look forward to speaking to you guys very, very soon. Subscribe.